All right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. All praises to the Most High. This is an example of how the law tilts in favor of law enforcement, even when they are caught red handed, dead wrong. This story is about David Brett Westmoreland, a former Louisiana state trooper. And at the time of this crime, he was a current probation officer for the city of Alexandria in Louisiana. And this time he hit a man while he was riding on his bike with his minor son, killing the man. He was legally twice over the legal alcohol limit, as well as he left the scene. He was originally charged with vehicular homicide, hit and run, DWI, and some other charges. Now, that was in 2021. And just last month, he was allowed to plead guilty to negligent homicide and received no jail time. That's right, no jail time. I'm going to play you a few news videos, most recently, the one detailing why he did not get any jail time for this horrific crime. Just watch. And this video was used in fair use for literary and commentary purposes only. Check it out.
Nearly 4-year-long saga in the courtroom is now coming to a close. Former state trooper David Westmoreland has been sentenced for negligent homicide. And as our Rob LaPearl reports, sentencing involving prison with hard labor was played down to just probation.
It's not like television. If you watch Law and Order, a crime gets committed, somebody gets arrested, and is concluded by the end of the episode an hour later. Doesn't work that way.
After nearly 4 long years in court, David Westmoreland walked out of the Rapides Parish Courthouse a free man. The former state trooper was originally arrested for vehicular homicide, DWI, and hit and run for a crash that led to the death of 48-year-old Donnie Calle, an Alexandria man who was riding his bicycle with his son down Horseshoe Drive. Due to Westmoreland's employment as a juvenile probation officer for the Rapides Court, all of the court's judges recused themselves from handling the case back in 2022. Flash forward to 2025, he changed his original plea of not guilty to those original charges to guilty, but only for negligent homicide. The hit and run charge was ultimately dropped, and reports stating Westmoreland was nearly double over the legal drinking limit at the time couldn't be used by the prosecution.
It was a very tough case. There were problems with the investigation. The blood evidence the evidence of intoxication was excluded. It's a very unfortunate case from both sides.
After 2 previous delays, the court sentenced Westmoreland to 3 years in a prison to be served at hard labor, but was eventually talked down to just supervised probation.
We wanted a probation sentence with no incarceration time. I felt very strongly that under the facts of this case, Mr. Westmoreland should not have to serve any prison sentence. The law in Louisiana sets forth a number of factors which militate in favor of a suspended sentence with no prison time and simply probation.
But that is an assessment that the Rapides DA did not agree with.
When you run over and kill somebody and you've been drinking, in my mind, it requires a little bit stiffer penalty than was received here. And when you take into account the facts of the case, I think that it's clear that he deserved some prison time.
The state recommended a maximum incarceration sentence. And with all due respect, that recommendation just made no sense. That recommendation was totally ill-founded and just had no application to either the defendant or the facts of this case, in my opinion. I'm not surprised at all that a lot of people are not happy with the sentence. Certainly the family members have very legitimate feelings regarding the loss of Mr. Calle's life. However, if you look at the sentencing factors, the fact that he's been a law enforcement officer and been a respectable member of society, that weighs in his favor under the law. It doesn't weigh against him.
But for the family of Calle, Terrell had this to say.
I hope that this brings them some peace.
All right. And so there you hear that evil lawyer. You can just look at that lawyer. And actually, both the DA and the lawyer is very evil. Talking about because he was a law enforcement and because he was an upstanding citizen, that weighs in his favor. Not when you kill somebody under the influence and you flee from the scene. And that stuttering DA talking about, well, there were some complications. We couldn't use the blood evidence. Best believe they catered to that man. They made sure that they were going to make a mistake to make sure that he didn't get any jail time. Now, also because he worked for the juvenile probation, all of the judges recused themselves. That means that they removed themselves from the case because they knew they could not adjudicate the case fairly. That's why they had to bring another judge in, which that judge, to his credit, sentenced him to 3 years hard labor. But they kept delaying the sentence, until last month when it was, as the news reporter said, talked down, and he was able to get 3 years of probation and a $2,500 fine. Now, mind you, once again, this happened in 2021. And shout out to my brother from Alexandria that sent me this. He said they have been pushing this case off, trying to sweep it under the rug so people will forget. Evidently, that tactic worked because this family has lost their loved one, but this evil state trooper who was driving drunk, hit the man, and left the scene is allowed to walk free. Now, I'm going to play this other video, which gives a little more details on the severity of what the guy actually did. Just watch, and I'm playing these videos in fair use for literary and commentary purposes only. Check it out.
For a former juvenile probation officer in the Rapides Parish Courthouse charged with vehicular homicide and hit and run for a deadly accident in which a bicyclist was killed appears to still be on track for the week of June 18th. A pretrial was scheduled today before ad hoc judge Jimmy Peters for David Brett Westmoreland for the crash that killed Donnie Kaye on May 1st, 2021 on Horseshoe Drive in Alexandria. But Peters was unable to physically attend the hearing, and Kaye's family and News Channel 5 were both told a phone conference would take place instead with the judge, state, and defense. News Channel 5 learned some new details from a police report from the day of the crash, including information that Westmoreland had a blood alcohol level of 0.137%. We also learned in the report that a witness estimated that after Kaye was hit, Westmoreland didn't return to the scene until about 10 minutes later, which was after police arrived. Westmoreland's represented by Mike Small. That case is being prosecuted by Assistant District Attorney Kelvin Sanders.
All right, and so there you hear the reporter say that witnesses said that he did not return to the scene 10 minutes later after police had already arrived. Now, what was he doing within that 10 minutes? Probably getting rid of some other illegalities that were in his possession. And also, now, this article was from 2 years ago, and they said that they was putting the trial off. And mind you, it got put off for another 2 years. But you hear them say that the judge was unable to attend the hearing. So they had a phone call with the prosecution, the DA, and the judge. Like, what? In what world does a case get handled like that? You know, so they should have already knew the fix was in for this guy. Just 2 years later, he was allowed to plead guilty, not to vehicular homicide, not to hit and run, not to DWI, but to negligent homicide, which is the lowest. Now, they said he could have gotten 10 years, but of course we know that, you know, they gave him the lowest sentence possible. The hit and run charges were actually dropped, and the DWI, for some reason, that evidence, and you notice how that stuttering, buttering DA never said why that evidence wasn't able to be presented. You know, they got to him. That dude had a lot of pull. He was a state trooper. He had a lot of friends in the courthouse, and that's why he got off. Nobody can tell me anything different. And so This is just another example. I wanted to share this because when these law enforcement officers commit crimes, they always say, well, he was an officer, so he had good service. Everything is good until it's not. Everything is good until everybody's a good person until he's not. John Wayne Gacy was a good person until he wasn't. You know, so for them to allow this guy to walk free once again is definitely another example of the racism that exists within the American court system today. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Y'all see the number 919-587-7782. Thank y'all for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And as always, peace and blessings.